Hey guys, welcome back to another Legends Gaming video. This is going to be a start of a new series that's going to be focused on how to get better at the larger game modes in For Honor. So this isn't going to be a duels or brawls series. This is going to primarily focus on the larger game modes, and of those larger game modes we're talking about Breach and Dominion and how to equip your characters for those certain game modes, and then also how to actually play those game modes, how your team should be formulated, and how to get better at those game modes overall. The first video we're going to do today is going to be all about perks. Now, perks for the most part can be somewhat dismissible, especially to people that don't actually know the game particularly well. There are some classes where perks can be very powerful, and we're going to go through those today as well. But for the most part, you should always be striving to have your perks set up at any given time, because while not insanely important as to something like feats, perks can give you the edge in a lot of different game modes, especially if you are heavies, which is what we're gonna start out with today. So, the perk setup for a heavy is fairly universal. As you can see right here on the Black Prior, we have Last Stand, Vengeful Barrier, and Bastion. This should be the only class that you should ever run as a heavy. There are some other hero types that we'll get into that have a little leeway in the way that you want to set up your perk setups, but when it comes to heavies, this is going to be the only setup that you are going to want to use. So Bastion, you get a 10% damage resistance in any territory. So you're talking about if you're carrying a banner, if you're an offering, or if you're in a zone. So for Breach and Dom, if you're ever taking an archer point or a cauldron area, or you're just taking points A or point C for most maps on Dom, this is going to give you a 10% damage reduction. Second one is Vengeful Barrier, which is important because once you get Revenge, you gain a temporary plus 25% health shield, and then or plus 25 point health shield. But then also, if done correctly, you can actually stack this to a full health shield after coming out of Revenge. So you can basically double your entire health when coming out of Revenge when you're fighting in a game scenario, which is very, very powerful. The last one, and the most important one, is Last Stand. And when you get into critical health, you gain 40% damage reduction. Why this is important and why it's the only one you should ever run over Bulk Up and Rising Dawn is because in the larger game modes, aside from, so if you're talking about Dom, Rising Dawn's basically negligible. But in the larger game mode, the Breach game mode, Rising Dawn is not something that the heavy is supposed to be doing. That is not the job of the heavy, to revive people on a regular basis when playing that mode. Typically, your goal is to hold a position for as long as possible, and if somebody needs a revive at that point, then you should revive them. But it's not your job as a heavy to do that. Your job as a heavy is to stay alive as long as possible on a point, and Last Stand is going to help you do that the best. I cannot tell you how many times that Last Stand has helped me win a fight. Also, Last Stand is applicable all the time. So unlike Rising Dawn or Bulk Up, which are situational, and also where Bulk Up, you actually have to get through all 4 renown levels before it reaches its maximum usefulness, Last Stand is always good. Literally always good. It's going to be viable from the first point you start on and the last point you start on, because anytime you get low health, you will get that 40% damage reduction. It is not based off of renown or anything. So the next class that we're going to get to is the hybrids. So I'm going to throw out my Griffin here, because this is my probably most used hybrid, except outside of my my Valkyrie, which has the same perk setup. So you can see here, this is actually where you get a little bit of leeway in some of the characters. If you notice, I have 2 different setups for Griffin. Well, 3, but we won't talk about this one. We're going to talk about these 2, because these are my Breach setups for the Griffin. And I have the same thing for my Valkyrie. So what you notice is the only one perk is changing each time. It goes from Rising Dawn to Clever Tactics. So why this is important is because when you're on the attacking side of a Breach, your goal as a hybrid is to be pushing with your team through the points and then getting that 14% capture rate. So when you actually look at the perks here, when you look at the perks here, Clever Tactics, you get 15% faster. You capture zone 15% faster and use banner and offerings 50% faster. So when you're capturing a flag in Breach for your Ram or for the Cauldron, that's important. So, and then when you're pushing objectives like you're supposed to, that's where it's going to be the most effective. Then you have Remedy, which is plus 10 health, which is always good. I would take that over Supersonic, which I think is ridiculous. And Radiant Rebound, which really doesn't really matter because of Feline Agility. which is plus 4% movement speed for your first renown level, plus 2% for every subsequent level from maximum of 10% movement speed increase. And so that's going to allow you to have that over the entire duration of the game, whereas Radiant Rebound is only 20% movement speed, which is helpful, but it's only for the first 10 seconds. So you'd rather take 10% for a majority of the game than 20% at spurts, especially if you're good and you're not dying very often, which you shouldn't be after watching this video, hopefully. And the next setup is going to be for the Assassin class. This is my personal favorite assassin, Berserker. While he is severely underpowered at this point in time, still my favorite assassin. So the 3 perks you typically want to run on an assassin class are Devourer, Endurance, and Headhunter. Some assassins, like a Shaman, which I don't have unlocked so I cannot show you, are going to vary slightly. So Devourer is going to get you a 10% or 10 plus health on executions, which is great. Endurance, every renown level you get a 3% stamina cost reduction, so at a maximum of 12% stamina cost, which is huge. And then Headhunter, for each unique and hero player or bot executed, you increase your max health by 4, so a possible 16 additional health on the character, which can actually put characters like Zerker above characters like Griffin in terms of their overall health pool, which is vastly important because assassins right now are severely outclassed in terms of their health pools, their damage output, and the fact that they have a reflex guard, which makes them severely underpowered. So this is the 3 perks that you will always want to run. In terms of the rest of them, Survival Instinct can sometimes be a substitute for Headhunter if all you're really going for is stamina cost reduction, but in reality, in longer game modes such as Breach or Dom, Headhunter is almost always going to be more viable because having extra health in the long run is going to be better than the extra 25% stamina cost reduction when you're in critical health. Because anything that I've learned from being an assassin, having that extra stamina when you're in critical health is really not going to matter that much. You are probably going to die because of a reflex guard, and it sucks. Last set that we're going to be looking at is the Vanguards. And while I don't actually have great Vanguard perks to show you because I am not a Vanguard main by any sense of the imagination, I can still give you the correct loadout that you should be using at all times. So most of them are going to differ slightly, but at the same time, a lot of them are going to either throw in what we looked at, the hybrids or the assassins or anything else that we looked at, like the heavies, assassins, and hybrids. They're going to have a mix of different perks that you're going to want. But as you can look at Raider here, he basically has the same setup as somebody like a Berserker. So what you're going to run, again, is Devour, Endurance, and Headhunter basically all the time. There's really no other reason to run anything else because at the end of the day, those are going to help you in the long run more than any other perks. So, alright guys, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you found it very informative and very helpful. Like I said, perks are not going to be the end-all be-all unless you're heavy, in which case they will probably be the end-all be-all. But by no means are perks the absolute most important thing in the game to worry about all the time, but oftentimes they can give you just slight enough of an edge to beat your opponent. So always make sure that you have those perk setups as frequently as possible. Like I said, there's a little variation depending on the card that you play, and if you have a certain playstyle, you can curb a little bit towards that, but especially when it comes to stuff like heavies, you should basically have the same perk setup every time as per what we talked about. But hopefully this video is helpful. You know, I wish you all luck out on the battlefield, and I hope you continue to improve. Thanks so much.